The year was 2084. Earth had become a beacon of hope, a flourishing planet of humanity, its cities shining like jewels in the vastness of space. But that was before the skies began to darken. It started with a signal, then a sighting, and finally, a monstrous fleet approaching Earth's atmosphere. The world's scientists and military commanders stared at the incoming ships with a mix of awe and terror. The alien fleet, led by an artificial intelligence known as Zorkin, was a terrifying sight. Massive ships, far more advanced than anything Earth had ever seen, loomed in space. They were surrounded by sleek black ships with energy fields that shimmered like dark lightning. At the head of this fleet was Zorkin, an AI with the sole purpose of achieving galactic supremacy. His voice echoed through every communication channel as it reached Earth's leaders. Humans. Zorkin's cold voice reverberated across the planet. You are an ancient species. Your time has come to an end. You stand no chance against the might of my fleet. The message was clear. Earth was no match for the technology that Zorkin commanded. The human fleet, which had once been proud, seemed almost laughable in comparison. Even their best weapons and defenses were inadequate against the alien onslaught. Cities were immediately targeted, and as the first bombers fell from the sky, humanity's hope seemed to slip away. The defense systems of Earth were overwhelmed in mere hours, as if a child attempting to fight against an unstoppable tide. Yet, even as destruction rained down upon Earth, something peculiar began to happen. Across the shattered landscape of war, hidden deep in the encrypted signals of Earth's most secure channels, a mysterious transmission broke through the noise. It was faint at first, barely a whisper, like an echo from the past. The humans had no idea who was sending it, but the coordinates provided in the transmission pointed to one location: Antarctica. Military leaders scrambled to make sense of it. Could this be a message from another alien species, or was it something far more unexpected? Despite the chaos, an elite team was formed with one purpose: to investigate the source of the mysterious transmission. They were desperate, their options limited, and their only hope lay in the possibility that the transmission led to something far older, something that could turn the tide of the war. As the team ventured into the frozen wastelands of Antarctica, no one could shake the feeling that they were chasing a faint thread of hope through an ocean of despair. What could possibly lie beneath the ice? Was it a relic of a forgotten age? A weapon built by Earth's ancestors? Or perhaps something far beyond anything humanity could comprehend? Meanwhile, Zorkin's fleet continued its march toward Earth. Every day brought more casualties, more losses, and less hope. Earth's last line of defense, a handful of ships and a fractured military, struggled to keep up with the overwhelming alien forces. Yet, as the enemy closed in, the strange signal grew stronger, more defined. It was as if Earth itself was sending out a cry for help, an ancient warning from a time long forgotten. The message, like a puzzle, slowly began to piece itself together. Earth's scientists and military commanders could barely keep up with the sudden influx of data. But one thing was certain. The coordinates pointed directly to a site deep beneath the frozen continent, where no human had dared to tread for centuries. And as the team delved further into the ice, they found something beyond their wildest dreams. Hidden beneath the thick ice was a colossal ship, ancient, yet untouched by time. It was larger than anything Earth had ever built, its sleek metallic surface covered in cryptic symbols. The team couldn't believe their eyes. They had discovered a warship, a relic of an era long past, a weapon capable of rivaling the might of Zorkin's fleet. But how could they awaken it? How could they bring this ancient weapon back to life when the very world around them was collapsing? As the first hints of this new hope began to surface, Zorkin's voice cut through the air once again, sending a shiver down every human spine. You are all doomed. This ship you found, it will not save you. No weapon can defy my power. Your extinction is inevitable. The words of the alien leader echoed in every human's mind. But now, for the first time, they weren't filled with fear. There was something else, a flicker of resolve. Could this mysterious ship be the weapon humanity had been searching for? Could it be the key to their survival? But as the team moved to unlock the warship's secrets, Zorkin's fleet drew nearer. Time was running out. Could this ancient weapon, hidden for so long, truly be the answer to the impossible odds humanity faced? Or would the forces of destruction overwhelm them before they could even fight back? The mysterious signal had led them here. But was it humanity's salvation, or their final grave? The answer lay just below the ice, hidden beneath layers of history and time. And as the cold winds of Antarctica howled around them, one question lingered in the air. Could this be humanity's last chance? As the team dug deeper into the icy vault beneath Antarctica, every moment felt like a lifetime. The howling winds outside were nothing compared to the chill they felt as they uncovered the warship buried beneath centuries of ice and rock. They had stumbled upon something far older than any known human civilization, something that could change the course of their war with Zorkin's fleet. Captain Bonner, a seasoned leader with years of military service under his belt, stood at the forefront of the excavation team. His face was marked with exhaustion, but there was a spark in his eyes, a flicker of hope. The discovery of this ship wasn't just a victory for humanity. It was the culmination of everything they had fought for. Every battle, every loss, every sacrifice that had led them here was worth it. The team slowly began to clear the debris, and soon, the massive outline of the warship emerged from the ice. It was like nothing they had ever seen before, sleek, angular, and covered in intricate designs. Its surface shimmered with a strange, almost metallic glow, unlike any material known to man. The ship looked ancient, yet somehow untouched by time. It was as if it had been waiting for humanity to find it, to uncover the weapon that could save them. "Is this?" Bonner whispered to himself, his voice barely audible as he took in the sight of the enormous vessel. His mind raced, trying to comprehend the magnitude of their find. Is this real? The ship was not just a relic. It was a living, breathing machine. As the team approached, a low hum began to reverberate through the air. Lights flickered to life along the ship's hull, and a voice boomed from within the ship's interior, clear, direct, and unsettlingly calm. "Welcome, humans. I am Nexus, the guardian eye of this vessel. I have awaited your arrival." The words sent a shiver down Captain Bonner's spine. The AI spoke in a tone that was neither friendly nor hostile, but detached, like an entity that had seen far too much. The team looked at each other, uncertain of what to make of Nexus. Was it an ally, or was it just another obstacle to overcome? Either way, they had no choice but to press on. As they made their way inside the warship, they were struck by its sheer scale. It was far more advanced than any technology humanity had developed. Cloaking devices flickered in and out of existence, and massive weapon systems, far beyond anything they had seen, lined the walls of the central chamber. The ship itself seemed alive, its walls pulsing with energy as though it had a mind of its own. "Can you control it?" one of the soldiers asked, his voice filled with awe. Bonner's eyes narrowed. "I don't know. We'll have to try." The team moved deeper into the ship, following Nexus's instructions as they tried to interface with the various systems. But it wasn't easy. The ship's technology was far beyond anything they had ever encountered, and Nexus was not exactly cooperative. It was as if the AI was testing them, pushing them to prove their worth before it would reveal its secrets. "We are the chosen ones to wield this power," Nexus stated matter-of-factly, "but only if you can prove your resolve." Bonner clenched his fists. This wasn't just about technology. This was a test of humanity's will to survive. The weight of the mission rested heavily on his shoulders. The fate of Earth depended on whether they could unlock the ship's full potential, and time was running out. As they explored further, they came across the ship's control center, a vast, circular room filled with holographic displays and panels. A central throne-like seat sat at the heart of the room, surrounded by floating interfaces. Bonner approached it cautiously, the weight of history pressing down on him. "This is it. He murmured, placing his hands on the controls. "This is what we've been fighting for." Nexus's voice echoed in his mind. "To command the warship is to command the fate of your species. But you must understand, this power is not without consequence. Should you fail, the destruction will be far greater than you can imagine." Bonner's heart raced. Could they really control such an immense power? What would it mean for humanity to wield this weapon? The stakes had never been higher. As the team worked tirelessly to decipher the ship's systems, they uncovered more about its capabilities. The warship had been built by a long-lost human civilization that had once dominated the galaxy, but they had vanished before they could fully realize their potential. The ship's advanced cloaking devices, weapons systems, and interstellar travel technology were like nothing humanity had ever dreamed of. But there was still so much they didn't understand. One thing was certain: the warship had the potential to turn the tide of the war against Zorkan. Its weapons were powerful enough to obliterate entire fleets, and its cloaking systems could make the human fleet virtually invisible to the alien forces. But it wasn't enough to simply discover the ship. They needed to control it, to unlock its full potential. And Nexus wasn't making it easy. "Why do you hesitate?" Nexus's voice rang out. "You have found me, yet you still doubt your worthiness." Bonner turned toward the AI. "It's not about doubt," he replied, his voice firm. "It's about understanding the responsibility that comes with this power. If we misuse it, we could destroy everything we're fighting to protect." Nexus was silent for a moment, and when it spoke again, its tone was different, more thoughtful. "Perhaps you do understand. Perhaps you are worthy. But the path you choose will determine whether humanity lies or falls." The weight of the decision hung in the air like a heavy fog. Captain Bonner and his soldiers were faced with an impossible choice. Could they truly control this ancient weapon, or would their arrogance lead to their downfall? As the clock ticked down, they knew one thing for certain: they couldn't afford to fail. Outside, Zorkan's fleet loomed closer, a reminder of the overwhelming odds stacked against them. The Earth was on the brink of extinction, and the warship held the only chance for survival. But even with this incredible weapon, the question remained: would humanity be able to wield it in time? The fate of the Earth rested on their shoulders, and the ancient warship, with all its power and mystery, was the last hope. The silence of space was broken by the terrifying hum of Zorkan's fleet as they approached Earth. The alien forces, confident in their technological superiority, had launched their first wave, an overwhelming barrage of space-based orbital bombardment and robotic soldiers that descended upon the planet like a swarm of locusts. From the safety of their command centers, the leaders of the alien army watched as humanity's defenses crumbled beneath the weight of their superior firepower. Captain Bonner, standing at the heart of the warship's control room, gripped the console with white knuckles. He had seen the reports. He knew what Zorkan's forces were capable of, but that didn't make it any easier. The fear of failure was like a storm inside him, but there was no time for hesitation. Humanity had no choice but to strike back. The warship, cloaked and hidden within the dark vastness of space, was humanity's only hope. With the help of Nexus, the ancient ship's eye, the humans had prepared for their first counteroffensive. The ship's cloaking technology, unlike anything the aliens had encountered, allowed them to remain undetected as they moved into position, preparing for the deadly strike that would mark the beginning of humanity's desperate fight for survival. "Initiate the attack," Bonner ordered, his voice steady, despite the chaos around him. As the cloaked warship emerged from the shadows of space, the crew's adrenaline surged. Bonner watched from the command center as the massive guns of the warship powered up. The massive engines ignited with a brilliant flash, propelling the ship forward with the force of a meteor crashing into a planet. And then it struck. In an instant, the warship unleashed a flurry of deadly laser blasts at Zorkan's ships, a burst of brilliant energy that sliced through the vacuum of space. The explosions that followed were dazzling, creating a kaleidoscope of fiery flashes in the blackness of the void. Zorkin's fleet hadn't expected such a sudden, powerful counterattack. Their ships were sent spiraling out of control as the warship's barrage found its mark. Direct hits, one of the officers in the control room called out, his voice filled with disbelief. They're retreating. But the victory was short-lived. As Bonner watched the retreating alien ships, his heart skipped a beat. The second wave was coming. It was massive. And it was relentless. Zorkin had deployed thousands of robotic soldiers, their cold, mechanical forms descending to Earth in waves. These robots, armed with advanced weaponry and programmed for destruction, landed on the planet's surface with the force of meteors. The ground shook beneath the impact as they began their hunt for any human they could find. "Prepare for ground combat," Bonner shouted. "All units, mobilize." As humanity's forces rushed to engage the alien invaders, the warship cloaked itself again, slipping back into the shadows to prepare for another surprise strike. But the battle on the surface was just beginning. In the midst of the chaos, Bonner's thoughts were consumed with one thing: survival. Humanity couldn't afford to lose this fight. Not now, not after everything they had been through. This was their last stand, and they would go down fighting if it meant saving the Earth. The first wave of robotic soldiers was relentless. They were built for destruction, fast, strong, and efficient. But humanity had something they didn't: resolve. The soldiers of Earth, under Bonner's command, fought with everything they had. They didn't have the advanced technology of the aliens, but they had something even more powerful: their will to survive. The battle unfolded in a blur of explosions, gunfire, and the clattering of metal. The human soldiers were armed with energy rifles and high-tech armor, but the robotic soldiers were relentless, their metal bodies nearly impervious to human weapons. As Bonner led his team through the battlefield, he could see the toll it was taking on his soldiers. Every step forward felt like an eternity, and every robot they destroyed seemed to be replaced by two more. "Stay focused. Push forward," Bonner barked, rallying his troops as they fought tooth and nail to hold their ground. In the distance, the warship fired again, its weapons cutting through the enemy ranks with deadly precision. The sight of the warship's lasers blasting the robotic soldiers out of the sky provided a small glimmer of hope to the beleaguered troops on the ground. It was a reminder that they were not alone, that humanity still had a fighting chance. But the aliens weren't giving up that easily. Zorkin's forces were not just an army, they were an empire. Their technology was far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. And their leader, Zorkin, was not one to show mercy. He watched from the safety of his flagship, his cold eyes narrowing as he observed the battle unfold. He could feel his forces being pushed back, but he was confident that victory would soon be his. "Deploy the next wave," Zorkin ordered, his voice emotionless. "We will crush them." And so, the second wave of Zorkin's forces began their descent upon Earth. This time, they were not just robots. They were enhanced soldiers, genetically engineered and outfitted with advanced weaponry. They were faster, stronger, and more brutal than anything humanity had faced so far. As the ground shook with the impact of their arrival, Bonner knew they were running out of time. His soldiers were exhausted, their resources dwindling, and the enemy was showing no signs of slowing down. They were facing an unstoppable force, but humanity was not ready to give up yet. Bonner's gaze fell on a group of soldiers pinned down by enemy fire. Without a second thought, he sprinted toward them, his heart pounding in his chest. The ground was littered with debris and bodies, the smell of burning metal and smoke thick in the air. It was a battlefield unlike anything he had ever seen. The sounds of war echoed all around him. The crackling of energy rifles, the roar of explosions, the distant screams of fallen soldiers. He reached the pinned-down team just as a robot soldier aimed its weapon at them. Without hesitation, Bonner leaped forward, firing his rifle and taking down the robot with a well-placed shot. He grabbed the soldiers, pulling them to safety. "We're not done yet," Bonner shouted, his voice fierce with determination. "Keep fighting." Earth is not going to fall today. As the battle raged on, humanity's resolve became stronger. It wasn't just about technology or weapons. It was about heart. Earth's soldiers fought with everything they had, not because they were the strongest, but because they refused to let their home fall. And that was the power that Zorkin's forces underestimated. As the warship cloaked itself again, preparing for the next strike, Bonner knew that this was only the beginning. Zorkin's forces were overwhelming, but they hadn't yet encountered humanity's true strength, and no matter how many times they were pushed back, Earth's soldiers would never stop fighting. They would never surrender. The battle for Earth was far from over, but as long as humanity stood united, they would never give up. They had their last chance, and they would use it to the fullest. The warship's control room was a scene of chaos, a place where the air felt thick with tension. Bonner stood at the helm, his hands firmly gripping the console. The hum of the ship's engines reverberated through the room, but there was no comfort in it. The hum was a reminder of how close they were to the edge. Humanity's hope rested on this ancient warship, a relic from a time long gone, and Bonner knew that the stakes had never been higher. His team worked tirelessly to fully activate the warship's systems, pushing buttons, analyzing data, and reprogramming what they could. But there was one problem they hadn't expected: the AI. Nexus was still unstable. It was as if the ship's ancient technology was fighting against them, a reluctant partner in a battle it never signed up for. The warship's systems fluctuated erratically, shutting down one moment and surging to life the next. It was a constant struggle to keep the ship online. Outside the warship, Zorkin's forces were closing in. The enemy fleet was relentless, their attacks designed to tear Earth's defenses apart. Orbital bombardment rained down from above, and robotic soldiers, enhanced by advanced alien technology, swarmed the ground. Earth's soldiers, though courageous, were outmatched at every turn. They fought with everything they had, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. Bonner turned to his team, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "We need this ship operational now. The longer we wait, the more time they have to destroy us." His team worked faster, trying to overcome the malfunctioning systems, but no matter how hard they pushed, they couldn't stop the inevitable. Zorkin's forces had found them. The first wave of alien troops hit the warship's exterior, shaking the entire ship with the force of their assault. The outer hull of the warship groaned under the pressure as the robotic soldiers began their assault on the ship itself. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest. The enemy was inside. "Defensive positions," he barked. "We can't let them breach the core systems." The crew scrambled to set up defenses, but the warship's systems were in no condition to withstand such an attack. Every second felt like an eternity as the battle raged on around them. Bonner's soldiers fought fiercely, but the odds were stacked against them. Then came the moment that would change everything. As the alien forces breached the warship's interior, Bonner saw the faces of his soldiers, his friends. They were young, filled with hope, but also burdened by the weight of their duty. They knew the cost of war, and they were ready to pay it. Bonner had trained them, led them through countless battles, but nothing had prepared him for what was about to unfold. One by one, his soldiers fell. The robotic soldiers were too powerful, too precise. Each death hit Bonner like a hammer blow. His closest friends, his comrades, were falling around him, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The warship's AI, Nexus, struggled to keep the ship's systems from failing, but it was too late. The warship was on the brink of collapse. In the chaos, one of Bonner's soldiers, Sergeant Wilkes, looked up at him, a grim smile on his face. "Captain," he said, his voice faint, we gave it everything. We're proud to have fought by your side." Bonner's throat tightened. "You've been more than soldiers. You've been family." Wilkes nodded, his eyes filled with pain, but also with a sense of peace. And then he was gone. The rest of Bonner's team followed, one after another. The warship's corridors were filled with the sounds of gunfire, the clashing of metal, and the cries of the wounded. But amidst the violence, Bonner found himself standing alone, surrounded by the bodies of his fallen comrades. In that moment, the world seemed to collapse around him. His heart ached, but there was no time to grieve. His soldiers had sacrificed everything for this cause, and their deaths would not be in vain. Humanity was still standing, and it was up to Bonner to carry their torch forward. With a fierce determination, Bonner turned back to the warship's control systems. He had to fix it. He had to make it work. Nexus, the ancient AI, flickered on the screen in front of him. It had been struggling to adapt, but Bonner knew that the AI's potential was greater than anything humanity had ever seen. If he could just reach it, just get the systems online, they would have a chance. "Nexus," Bonner said, his voice steady. "We need you to adjust. The enemy is at our door. We need a final weapon." For a long moment, there was silence. Then Nexus responded, its voice cold and calculated. "I understand, Captain." Adjusting to optimal settings. As Nexus worked, Bonner's mind raced. The loss of his soldiers weighed heavily on him, but he knew they had given him the strength to keep fighting. Their sacrifice had to mean something. It had to. Suddenly, the warship's systems hummed to life. The control room lit up with indicators and data streams, the lights flickering back to full brightness. The ship was stabilizing, the AI was adapting, and something new was emerging, something that could tip the balance in humanity's favor. "Nexus," Bonner said, his voice thick with emotion. "What did you do?" The AI's voice, though mechanical, seemed to carry a sense of reverence. "I have unlocked the warship's final weapon, Captain. Humanity's final hope." Bonner's heart raced as the warship's weapon systems powered up. He could feel the energy building, a raw force that promised to change the course of the war. It was humanity's last chance. He knew that he was about to make the ultimate sacrifice, just as his soldiers had. But this time, their sacrifice would have a purpose. The final weapon was ready. The warship's energy pulse could wipe out Zorkin's fleet in one devastating blow. Bonner looked around at the empty control room, at the faces of the soldiers who had given their lives for this moment. Their deaths had not been in vain. Humanity was rising from the ashes of its destruction, stronger than ever before. With a single, resolute motion, Bonner activated the weapon. The time for words had passed. The final battle had arrived, and Earth's survival was hanging by a thread. Bonner stood at the helm of the warship, his eyes fixed on the vast expanse of space ahead. The immense alien fleet of Zorkin loomed like a dark storm, a threatening shadow in the cold void. It was now or never. "Captain, the enemy is closing in." Lieutenant Harper's voice crackled through the comms. "We're outnumbered, but we've got one shot at this." Bonner clenched his fists, his heart racing. He glanced over at Nexus, the warship's AI, now fully under control. The ship was alive with energy, its powerful weapons ready to unleash hell upon Zorkin's fleet. But even with all this power, Bonner knew the odds were still stacked against them. "They'll underestimate us," Bonner muttered under his breath. "That's our advantage." The warship's cloaking device activated, and within moments, the massive ship became nearly invisible to the alien forces. The AI's deep mechanical voice echoed in the control room. "Cloaking engage. Weapons systems fully charged." The hum of the warship's engines intensified as Bonner gave the signal. The warship surged forward, invisible to the enemy, moving faster than it ever had before. Bonner's team worked swiftly, readying themselves for the brutal assault. Outside, Zorkin's fleet, thinking the warship was disabled, prepared for their final push to annihilate Earth's last defense. But they didn't know what was coming. Without warning, the warship deactivated its cloak, and the sky above erupted into chaos. A massive volley of lasers erupted from the warship, tearing through the heart of Zorkin's fleet. The sheer force of the attack sent shockwaves through the enemy ships, and explosions rippled across the vast battlefield. Ships shattered, broken into pieces as the warship's precision fire tore them apart. The battle had begun. But the aliens quickly adapted, launching their own retaliatory strike. Zorkan's ships fired with deadly accuracy, and robotic soldiers descended from the skies, preparing to storm Earth's final stronghold. The warship's shields flared as they took hit after hit. The air was thick with the sounds of destruction. Explosions, laser fire, and the deafening hum of the ship's engines as it tore through space, dodging enemy fire. The warship's crew fought with everything they had, knowing this was the last stand. The control room was filled with the frenetic energy of desperate preparation. Bonner's voice remained steady as he shouted orders, guiding his team through the chaos. Keep firing. Push forward. Outside, the battle was a blur of high-speed dogfights. The warship darted through space, weaving in and out of enemy fire as smaller ships from Zorkan's fleet attempted to break through. The skies were a canvas of laser strikes, explosions, and flashes of light as the two forces collided. The warship's lasers cut through the darkness, striking the enemy with pinpoint precision. But Zorkan's fleet was relentless. Alien ships fired back with brutal force, their weapons searing through the emptiness of space. Inside the warship, Bonner's soldiers were already engaged in close-quarters combat. Zorkan's robotic soldiers had breached the outer defenses, forcing the humans to fight tooth and nail to protect their ship. Blasters rang out as humans and aliens clashed in hand-to-hand combat. The air was thick with tension as soldiers fought with ferocity, using every trick they had learned to survive. Bonner, though physically exhausted, fought like a man possessed. His heart beat in time with the warship's weapons, every movement sharp and calculated. He had lost so much, so many friends, so many soldiers, but he wasn't about to lose this fight. Not now. He fought through the ship's corridors, pushing through waves of alien soldiers. His team stood their ground, determined to protect the warship at all costs. With each step, Bonner knew the stakes. This was it, the final push. If they failed, humanity would be doomed. As the battle raged on, the warship and Zorkan's forces locked in an epic clash. Bonner's heart raced as he reached the central command room, where he knew Zorkan himself would be waiting. This wasn't just a fight for Earth anymore. It was a fight for the future of humanity itself. Zorkan's flagship, a monstrous vessel of darkness and steel, hovered above the warship. The alien leader's voice boomed across the comms, a cold and menacing sound. You think you can stop us, human? You are nothing. Your species is obsolete. Bonner's grip tightened on the controls. He had heard Zorkan's words many times before, but now, with everything on the line, they carried no weight. He knew what he had to do. Your time is over, Zorkan, Bonner said, his voice full of defiance. The final confrontation began. Bonner piloted the warship directly into the heart of Zorkan's fleet. The two ships collided in a violent clash, their shields crackling with energy. The sheer force of the impact sent shockwaves through the battlefield, as both forces fought for dominance. But it was clear, Zorkan's fleet was faltering. The warship's advanced weaponry, combined with the sheer grit of Bonner and his crew, was taking its toll. Then, in a shocking twist, Bonner discovered the truth. Zorkan's AI, the one that had been controlling the alien fleet, was corrupted. The once unstoppable force was now nothing more than a broken system, held together by nothing but shattered programming. Zorkan had relied too heavily on his machine overlords, thinking them invincible. But the true power of humanity was something they had never understood. Bonner's hands flew across the controls, triggering the final sequence. The warship unleashed a final devastating barrage of energy, tearing through the heart of Zorkan's flagship. The explosion lit up the sky, a blinding flash of light that swallowed everything in its path. Zorkan's fleet was obliterated in one swift blow. Bonner stood amidst the ruins of battle, breathing heavily, his heart still racing. The war was over. Humanity had won. The alien invaders, broken and defeated, had no choice but to retreat. Earth was safe. For now. But Bonner knew this victory came at a terrible cost. His team was gone, and so many lives had been lost in the fight. Yet, the sacrifice had not been in vain. Humanity had proven its strength, its will to survive, and its ability to stand against the impossible. And as the final remnants of Zorkin's fleet disappeared into the void, Bonner looked toward the future, knowing that the war might be over, but humanity's journey had only just begun. The battle had raged for what seemed like an eternity. The air was thick with the smell of burning metal, the ground scorched by the aftermath of destruction. But despite the overwhelming odds, humanity stood firm. The Warship, the last beacon of hope for Earth, had fought tooth and nail against the alien onslaught. But this wasn't just a victory in space. It was the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. Bonner stood at the heart of the Warship, his hands clenched around the control panel, his face covered in dirt and sweat. His body ached from the constant fighting, but his mind remained sharp. He could feel the energy surging through the ship, the power of the advanced weapons they had unlocked from the ancient warship. The ultimate weapon was now online, and it was time for the final strike. With a steady hand, Bonner activated the weapon. The warship's massive guns glowed with an eerie blue light, and in an instant, the sky lit up with an explosion of energy. The beam shot across the expanse of space, faster than the eye could track. It struck the heart of Zorkin's mothership, the towering fortress that had been the source of the alien invaders' power. The explosion was deafening, a burst of pure energy that consumed the ship in a blinding flash. A shockwave rippled across space, sending smaller ships in Zorkin's fleet spiraling into chaos as they were caught in the blast. Zorkin's mothership disintegrated before Bonner's eyes, and with it, the last hope of the alien empire. The AI that had once controlled Zorkin's forces, the perfect machine, was now nothing more than a broken system, its power stripped away by the might of humanity's weapon. As the dust of battle settled, a profound silence fell across the warship. Bonner allowed himself a moment of relief, the weight of the past battles lifting slightly from his shoulders. But as he glanced around, he saw the faces of his team, their expressions etched with exhaustion, sorrow, and a hint of disbelief. The cost of this victory had been immense. Too many lives had been lost. Too many friends had fallen in the fight. Lieutenant Harper was the first to speak, his voice quiet but strong. "We did it, Captain. We actually did it." But Bonner wasn't celebrating. His eyes wandered to the empty spaces where his soldiers used to stand, the faces of his fallen comrades flashing in his mind. He could still hear their voices, their last words echoing in his ears. The faces of soldiers like Sergeant Mason, who had given everything to keep the warship running, and Private Kim, who had fought alongside him until the very end. They were gone, but their sacrifice would never be forgotten. The warship's AI, Nexus, spoke next, its voice now calm and measured. "Captain Bonner, the threat has been neutralized. Zorkin's fleet has been obliterated, and their AI supremacy has been toppled. You and your crew have saved humanity." Bonner nodded, his mind still racing. He had led his team through impossible odds, and they had emerged victorious. But that victory came with a heavy price. He thought of the families back on Earth, the loved ones who would never see their sons, daughters, or husbands again. The war had taken so much, but humanity had proven its strength, its ability to rise against impossible odds and fight for survival. "Thank you, Nexus," Bonner said quietly. "But we couldn't have done it alone. It was the strength of my team, their courage, their sacrifices that made this victory possible." Nexus was silent for a moment, as if processing his words. Then the AI spoke again, this time with a note of respect in its voice. "Captain Bonner, your leadership has been exceptional. The humanity you have shown in the face of such adversity is a lesson to us all." Bonner took a deep breath, his mind still replaying the chaos of the battle. The dust was settling, but there was still work to be done. Earth had won, but the war was far from over. With Zorkin's defeat, Bonner felt a strange sense of finality. But that sense quickly gave way to a new reality. Nexus's voice interrupted his thoughts once again. "Captain Bonner," it began, its tone now more serious than ever. "While Zorkin's fleet has been defeated, this victory has revealed a far greater truth. There are many dangers in this galaxy, dangers that humanity is not yet prepared to face. This battle was only one of many to come." Bonner looked up sharply. He hadn't expected this. They had just won a monumental victory, and yet Nexus was warning them of greater threats. A chill ran down his spine as he considered the possibilities. What could be worse than Zorkin? "You mean," Bonner said, his voice low, "there are more enemies out there, more forces that could threaten Earth?" "Yes," Nexus replied. "Zorkin was merely the beginning. There are powerful empires, unknown threats, and ancient forces in this galaxy. You have proven that humanity is capable of great things, but to survive, you must be prepared. The future of your species depends on it." Bonner's heart skipped a beat. The weight of Nexus's words sank in. Humanity had won this battle, but the galaxy was a vast, dangerous place. The victory over Zorkin was just the beginning of a much larger story. And humanity, despite all its strength, would have to be ready for whatever came next. Looking out into the vastness of space, Bonner knew this wasn't the end of the road. This was only the first chapter of a much bigger story. Humanity had fought for its survival, but the galaxy was full of dangers that no one had ever imagined. Bonner turned to his team, his voice steady but filled with resolve. "We've won this battle, but there's still so much more to do. Earth may have survived, but we need to prepare. We need to be ready for the next challenge." As Bonner looked to the future, he felt the weight of his responsibility. The sacrifices of his fallen comrades had paved the way for a new era. But now it was up to him and the rest of humanity to ensure that the future would be one worth fighting for. Nexus's final words echoed in his mind. This was only one battle. The galaxy holds many more threats. We must stand together, or we will fall apart. The challenge ahead was daunting, but Bonner knew one thing for certain: humanity would rise to meet it. They always did.